I'm Weston. I love talking about the Astros, and I'm here to talk about Game 29 of the regular season. Astros versus the Yankees. We lose 7-3. And this is a bit of a weird one for me, so I'm just going to get right into it. Zach Greinke gets the start, and good lord, he had a bad night. There is no way around it. Zach Greinke in the first inning was horrific. So in the first inning, for the Astros, Bregman would hit a home run to make it a 1-0 game in the top of the first. In the bottom of the first, Stanton would hit a 2-run home run, a walk to Judge, Gio Urshela would single, and at this point, I was starting to ask myself, do we maybe pull Greinke here? Another walk to load the bases, and then no outs again. A double play would make 1-run score to make it a 3-1 game, and then a ground out would end it. But this was a horrific inning by Zach Greinke. And I like Zach Greinke, but my goodness, this was one of the worst innings I've seen him pitch as an Astro. And it was rough for Zach in that inning. In the fourth, the Astros would get a couple of runs back. They would actually tie it again. In the fourth, Michael Brantley with an absolute nuke to the sweet deck in Yankee Stadium. I know Michael Brantley is a very good hitter. I didn't realize that he had that type of power in him. That was a monster home run. I think the StatCast number was 415 feet, which is just absolutely crushed. 109 or so off the bat. It was a missile up there to make it a 3-2 game. After that, Yordan would single, and Yuli was, and I'm not exaggerating, an inch away from hitting a home run. It was an inch away. You couldn't possibly be closer. That would have made it a 4-3 game. Instead, it's a 3-3 game because Yordan does come around to score. And then Correa grounds out. Yuli moves to third. And Kyle Tucker gets called out on strikes on pitches that were way out of the zone. And I wrote, all I want for my birthday is robot umpires, which is, given what happened in the sixth, becomes more evident. So the sixth inning, right, we get into some trouble. We bring in Brian Abreu. And in his at-bat, this was awful. Going up against Rougned Odor, who is not a great hitter, he dots up 2 beautiful pitches in the zone. That should have made it a 1-2 count. Now, I want you to just understand the difference in strategy of a 1-2 count and a 3-0 count, both from the pitcher standpoint, from the batter standpoint, from every standpoint. How different these two things are. You can look at every player in baseball. Look at their numbers with a 2-strike count versus without. And the numbers are jaw-dropping. Like, it's insane. Mike Trout, I believe, bats under 250 with 2 strikes. He's not Mike Trout with 2 strikes. No one is themselves with 2 strikes. This is such a massive change in the game plan. And these weren't borderlines. These were the entirety of the baseball was in the strike zone, and they got called balls. And I thought the officiating was horrible tonight. And I hate saying, oh, I thought the officiating was bad, because it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out. Like, it is. And the Astros did themselves no favors. Zach Greinke, horrible first inning, and Bregman would later on, in this inning, have an awful, awful throw where he was trying to play hero and sailed it into, the foul area, which would allow 3 runs to score. So I'm not saying the Astros were blameless in this game, and it's only upon the umpires. I'm not going to say that because that's just incorrect. But you have an at-bat here with 2 outs that if you call those strikes, that were strikes, let's not sugarcoat it. Yankees fans, I think you can at least agree with me on this. Hate me if you want to, that's perfectly fine. But you can agree with me that those should have been strikes because they were in the zone, without a doubt. And because of that, it completely changes the at-bat. He gets to draw a walk. And instead of facing Rougned Odor with 2 strikes, you now have to face DJ LeMahieu. Like, that is such a drastic change, a drastic shift, where instead of you're facing the 9th batter with, 1 strike away from being done, you're facing one of the best hitters in all of baseball in DJ LeMahieu. And because of this, he gets a little soft ground ball to Alex Bregman. And this is another point. Again, the Astros didn't do themselves any favors tonight. Alex Bregman swallow the ball, man. This is not a throw situation. This isn't do or die. Like, yeah, it would be great if you could have made it, but this was just a horrific throw by Alex Bregman. You don't throw it there. You swallow the ball. You let the run score. You deal with it. And upon that, I also thought Yuli Gurriel made a bad play by not coming off of the base. I understand you want to try to stretch out and get it. Like, God knows that. I understand that. First base. But at what point? You got to go get that ball if you're Yuli Gurriel. Like, this was unacceptable by Bregman. This was unacceptable by Yuli. and it led to 3 runs, which would decide the game very clearly. That would make it a 6-3 game. And during this play, Rougned Odor comes running home. And this was horrific. Now, I like Rougned Odor. I know he's been, a bitter rival of the Astros, but I actually kind of like the guy. And this was just painful to watch. He comes running home. He doesn't slide. I don't know why he doesn't slide. Maldonado gets a throw that leads him sort of back into the base path. He gets absolutely clobbered by Rougned Odor. Gets hit kind of in the shoulder, neck, head area, which is very scary, especially the way he fell to the ground and how he was laying there and screaming. Upon this, he also fell directly onto the bat, which doesn't feel good. Rougned Odor ran knee first into him, so his knee hyperextended. He could barely walk on it. I don't think he was putting any pressure on it when he was getting walked off by trainers and staff members, which was awful, an awful sight to see that, because I hate seeing players get hurt. Like, it's just the worst. He, again, was escorted off. Maldonado walked off on his own strength, but he did not look good. I am going to say he doesn't start for the rest of the series. I think he's out, and that's not even a question. But, man, that was just a rough inning. And after that, Giancarlo Stanton would single to make it a 7-3 game. And that is how the score would end. There was some other times where stuff happened, but no more runs would score. But this was an absolute disaster of an inning on the Astros' parts and on the umpires' parts. Because, again, I hate doing it. I hate just being like, oh, the umps really cost us that game. Because I don't think the umps cost us the game. I really don't. Like, I think that would have totally affected it. But yeah, like, it's not a guarantee that we get the strikeout there. But I get brought back to this point where we have such advanced technology at this point in human existence. I'm being able to do a broadcast in a room of my house with nothing more than a phone and a mic. Like, that's all I have, and a tablet for notes, but that's it. Like, I'm running an operation here that in the 90s would be tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm doing this for, little of nothing comparatively. We live in such an incredible advanced, technological time that you don't have to make the wrong calls anymore. You can put cameras in places to make the right calls, and you can have robotic umpires so that stuff like this doesn't happen. We don't have to have games that are decided by a human. Let me rephrase this. Calls that are decided by a human. Because I know the hot take right now is, yeah, but if you remove the umpires, you remove the human element of the game. And I don't view that at all. You can keep the umpire there. Give him, essentially a pager, if you guys know what that is. People in the 90s do. My generation probably doesn't, but I'm a nerd, so I know what it is. Give him a pager. When it's a strike, call it a strike. When it's a ball, call it a ball. But you don't... I don't know how much longer you can allow human umpires to make calls like this, because it just completely affects the game. And in this point, a 1-2 count versus a 3-0 count completely changes it for the Astros. And again, we didn't do ourselves any favors. Let's be honest. Call it how you see it. The Astros didn't do themselves any help tonight. But I'm mad not just because the Astros kind of got robbed here, but I'm mad because as a baseball fan, through the first 5 innings, this was an insane game. This was incredible baseball. This was shot for shot, brutal. This was playoff atmosphere. This was like ALCS atmosphere baseball between the two teams. And it was shaping up to be one of the games of the year. And instead, we got robbed of that as baseball fans, which sucks. So the pitching lines for tonight, I will get into now. Zack Greinke went 4 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, which again, this is a part that doesn't help you. Giving up 4 walks doesn't help anything. 4 strikeouts and a home run. Brandon Bielak came in, 1 2/3, 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Brian Abreu, 1/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Andre Scrub came in, he had a rough inning. 1 inning of work, no hits, no runs, but 2 walks and a strikeout. Joe Smith would come in. He would load the bases with 2 hits and a walk, 1 strikeout, and it was just rough. For final thoughts, the entirety of the pitching staff looked bad tonight, without a doubt. They were just rough. There's no other way to put it. It was bad. Greinke looked bad and off. He didn't have any control. Bielak looked meh. Brian Abreu didn't look great by any means. Andre Scrub was horrific, and Joe Smith, while he didn't give up any runs, just continues to be a whip machine. And for hitters, Bregman, Yordan, and Yuli all had multi-hit games, which I have something very special for the next time Yuli Gurriel hits a home run that I'm very excited to bring out, which I'm very sad because I was about an inch and a half of being, an inch and a half away from having that experience tonight, which would have been somewhat of a positive. And that was it. That was it for the game. It was rough for the Astros. Hopefully they can rebound in the next two games. We will have Luis Garcia tomorrow on the mound going against, I believe it is Montgomery at 7:05 Eastern Standard Time, which is 6:05 Central Time, which is where, actual Houston will be watching the game at. And I'll be here after that game as well. And I'm actually going to be working double tomorrow night because the Rangers and Astros both play. And boy, oh boy, is that Rangers game going to be something. So I'll be here after those games. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And as always, go Stros.